Greetings, today is October the 2nd, 2019. Do you like my Ectotron t-shirt? I did when I paid $20 for it, and then not too long later, GameStop lowered the price to $5, so I'm a little bit mad about that. Hey, while we're talking about things I'm mad at GameStop about, one day on social media, everybody was saying, oh, the Gamer Gremlin figure is marked down to $5 on their website. So I promptly ordered 3. I also had a hold at my local store. We have 3 GameStops here in a pretty close radius. So held one at the Muscle Shoals store, held one at the mall location. The other store didn't have one. Go to Muscle Shoals first, pick that one up, come home. My wife says, oh, GameStop called. They sold that figure that they were holding for you. I'm like, what? Reminds me of the Seinfeld episode, you know, about the reservation.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do.
So anyway, I was a little bit miffed about that, but I consoled myself saying, well, I ordered 3 off the website, no big deal. And then weeks go by and weeks go by, and I spend hours one day on their, 1-800 number trying to call and check about my order. Nobody ever picked up. And then, I don't know, 2 or 3 days after the phone call, they canceled the order and said, oh, we don't have any more, sorry. So yeah, thanks. Thought I bought 5 of these at $5 each and only got 1. So, GameStop, Okay, let's talk about Transformers and Ghostbusters. So I went through this stack right here. These are instruction sheets and tech specs decoders. I've actually got pieces of the boxes that I cut out and everything. And right here in the back, I thought this was kind of cool. I'd cut out this image of Optimus Prime, and I'd put a post-it note to it with his real name after seeing that episode. And I said, Orion Pax. Well, here's something funny for you. This was long before I named a son Orion. So that was kind of cool to find it in my handwriting. I've also found like a star chart that I drew when I was 6 years old of the constellation Orion. So yeah, even before he was in my life, he was in my life. I want to show you one more thing while I've got this piece of paper out. On the very back of it, down at the bottom there, it says Pessimus Prime. Now this was a joke that I used a lot in the 80s, especially with my pen pals, because we would call each other by our code names in G.I. Joe and by our Transformers names. So my code name in G.I. Joe was, instead of Snake Eyes, I was Four Eyes. And in Transformers lingo, I called myself Pessimus Prime. We'll come back to that later. But in going through all of these paper remnants from my Transformers collection back in the day, I was able to look through the instructions and the card backs and everything that's in here and come up with a checklist. And apparently I owned approximately 45 Transformers back in the day. So although I have about 15 that I accounted for when I took that box down out of Mom's attic a couple of months back, there's at least 30 characters unaccounted for, and that kind of bothers me. Some of them would be very small. They would be like, the cassettes that came with Soundwave. I only have 1 of those accounted for. And others would be the Action Masters, like this Megatron right here. I've got him, but I don't have any of the other Action Masters. On the flip side, I've got cool characters like Optimus Prime, but I don't have my Megatron. And I know for sure I had at least 1 Megatron because back in the 80s, one of them broke. And I went to the store and I bought another one and just sort of threw the broken one in the box and left it for a long time. After I had a kid or 2, I did a local toy show. My friend John Gibbons and I, we set up a table. That's how I met my friend Roy. And then he and I went to Star Wars Celebration together. So a very specific moment in time. But I broke even that day. Everything I sold, I spent the same amount at other people's tables. So it was kind of like, I don't think I'm cut out to be a seller at toy shows. But then the really painful incident was a guy came up, asked about the Megatron. I said, it's broken, it won't transform. The figure is, got a crack in this piece right here. And he's like, oh, okay. So he makes me an offer and I take it. And then before he steps away, he goes, the box was worth that much. Why? Why you gotta be like that? I don't understand people when they do stuff like that. But anyway, so the good, unbroken Megatron is not accounted for. He's one of the ones on this list that I can't find, and that in particular kind of bothers me. Not only is Megatron unaccounted for, here's his instruction sheet to prove that I actually had him, I found an instruction sheet for Starscream. In the previous video, I said that I didn't think I'd ever owned an original Starscream. Apparently, that was a bad memory because I did have one. Here's his instruction sheet. Found his label sheet in there. Just don't know where the figure is. So he's on that list of 30 missing ones as well. Remember this wolf guy? I couldn't remember his name in the previous video. Well, apparently his name is Carnivac. which sounds like a Johnny Carson character, but it's not. Now, since the previous video in this series where I unboxed my Ectotron from Hasbro Pulse, I also began collecting some of the IDW Transformers Ghostbusters comic books. This is issues 1, actually hidden behind it, you can't see it at the moment, is 2, 3, and 4. I need to go today, as a matter of fact, and see if issue 5 has come in. Now, I haven't collected a lot of Ghostbusters comic books in recent years, so this one was one that that piqued my interest. It's a 2-in-1, it's a crossover. I'm going to give this a read. I enjoyed what I read. Lo and behold, in one issue, Peter Venkman makes a pessimist joke to Optimus Prime. P-E-S-S-I-M-U-S, just like my little post-it note. I was like, whoa, somebody is reading my mind, because I've always identified with Peter Venkman more strongly than the other Ghostbusters, and here he is making a joke that I literally made decades ago. So that was pretty cool. One thing, though, bothered me. Optimus Prime is waiting behind the firehouse for people to arrive, and he gets graffitied. And even though the specific graffiti in question is the Venkman Burn in Hell graffiti seen in Ghostbusters, which is a very, very nice touch, they put it on a location on his arm that would not have been accessible to the graffiti artists when he was in truck mode. But that leads to why they wanted to repaint Optimus Prime, because he had gotten graffitied. So that leads to why he becomes the white version of the character later on in the story, which was also released as a toy. More on that later. Basically, kind of looks like if Ultra Magnus was pulling Optimus's trailer, right? Since the previous video, where I mentioned that I was going to try to find Zack's reissue Optimus Prime and hopefully cannibalize a newer spring out of it, because the mechanism that ejects Roller was no longer working on mine, I did go through every toy in Zack's bedroom. And as I'm looking, I realized just what a, number one, mad scramble a child does to a toy collection, and number two, what a mad scramble my wife had made when she went in there one day to clean up, and she just started throwing stuff into old school bags and stacking it in the closet. So I thought, I'll find this Optimus Prime. I found lots and lots of his Transformers in parts and pieces, and then I found the arm of his Optimus Prime. And then I found the tailgate of his Optimus Prime's trailer, and that's all I found. So hopefully, if his got boxed up and put with my missing 30 Transformers, it is still, all the other parts are still there and accounted for aside from these, but that was painful. It was painful to go, oh, I may not be able to find his trailer and take a spring out of it to repair mine after all. I did also find, by the way, his Creo Optimus Prime. Now, it was, a Lego-style version of the character, and I found lots and lots of little pieces to it. Probably no chance in Hades that I would be able to reassemble the thing fully, but I did find his little Creo minifig of Optimus Prime, so that was kind of cool too. Oh, by the way, in the previous video, I mentioned that I thought these Constructicons were knockoffs, but going through that bag full of tech specs decoders and instructions and everything, no, they're legit. I bought them on clearance. $2.99 each for these guys. So that means to make Devastator here, I spent about $18 in tax. So these are legit. They were not knockoffs. The same cannot be said for another combiner, which is this faux aerial bots. And the reason I say it's faux is because that's what I wrote on the box that this was found in a different location from all my other Transformers. So I think this was a knockoff version, a KO version of the aerial bots, but I still had all of the ones to combine and put together, even in Zack's bedroom as I was going through stuff. Apparently I bought him a set as well because I found some spare parts to go to this, so I was actually able to put together the best version with those spare parts, and then these are the leftovers right here. Another development since I shot the previous video is I did find this missing white piece for the Ultra Magnus, so he will actually attach to his trailer now. Very happy about that. And I even had an extra helmet for him. I don't know why I had two of those. Maybe I just was at a comic shop one day or something and found an extra one, so... And that helmet goes on top of Ultra Magnus's regular head, and then you put him inside the trailer, turned into his armor, and you've got a slightly bigger, more powerful figure. Now, I think in Japan, this was actually armor that Optimus Prime would wear, but we had a different character made of it here in the United States version. Now, that's cool that he is now complete. I thought I was missing that one piece, but on the other end of the spectrum, I've got this figure here, and come to find out, he's missing his little guy that folds up and fits in there that enables the rest of his transformation. So that guy must be among the missing 30 figures. So I've got almost all the toy except for one crucial element. Also, since the last video, I opened up Prime and I changed out his batteries. So his leadership matrix now lights up like it's supposed to. And I found this piece back here that was missing in the previous video while I was searching for possibly finding the remaining fragment of that Megatron gun that came with him. And I put new batteries in Unicron as well. Now, I may have gotten a little bit ripped off on the price of this shirt I'm wearing, but since the previous video, I have picked up a few things at Walmart on clearance. I got this Optimus Prime reissue for half the original asking price, so I went ahead and picked that up. They had about half a dozen left, and I thought I'll buy it and then it'll go lower and I'll come back and I'll have to buy it again and return the one that I paid half for. No, I never saw it again. Apparently everybody jumped on it when it was half price. So I also picked up another one of these Bumblebees with the cartoon style head on clearance. I think it's this one with the very, very dusty blister here. He was marked down slightly, so I thought, well, I never opened my first one, so this will give me one to open and one to have on the card. Well, here's something funny. After I shot this video, I was going to put these guys away, and I thought, okay, this is the one's got a good card back. This one's got the really smoky blister, so this is the one I'm going to open. This is the one I'm going to keep. Guess why his blister was smoky? He was actually packaged with 2 blisters. How weird. And you may remember in the previous video I was having some difficulty getting Soundwave's cassettes to eject. That spring is still messed up, and lo and behold, the cassette that was inside of him was Laserbeak instead of Buzzsaw. So that meant that the correct cassette Condor that came with him was no longer accounted for. It's with the missing 30. But shortly after that, guess what Walmart decided to do? They did a perfect recreation of Soundwave and Buzzsaw and Laserbeak and Rumble and Frenzy and Ravage. So even though these were a little, you know, extreme in their price-wise, just like Optimus Prime had been, for some reason I just felt like I couldn't wait for these to go on clearance. If they do, I might, you know, pick them up and sell these on eBay or something. But for the moment, I really, really wanted to have all those characters accounted for in my collection again. Now, getting Ectotron for my combined Ghostbusters and Transformers collections occurred with relative ease. It was like, oh, up for pre-order, Hasbro Pulse, $10 off, okay, click. And then when it came in, it arrived. Getting the other Ghostbusters Transformers crossover collectible proved to be a bit more difficult, because when the San Diego Comic-Con Optimus Prime in Ghostbusters colors came out, the thing was impossible to get. Number one, I wasn't going to San Diego. I didn't know anybody going to San Diego, and anybody that was going to San Diego was not going to get it for me and then sell it to me at cost. So I thought, well, when it goes up on the Hasbro Pulse website, I'm actually a Hasbro Pulse Premium member, I can order it a day early. Never once did I see it as available for sale. Refresh, 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 refresh every couple of seconds. It was always sold out status. So I missed out on that one, unfortunately. But could be worse. Brock Parker, the founder of the Alabama Ghostbusters, said that he had it in his cart and was about to make payment, and it disappeared back out of his cart. So this thing sold out within seconds or minutes, both days that it was on the Hasbro Pulse website. So I had to resort to eBay. Unfortunately, I knew there was going to be a markup involved, but I figured if I acted fast, I would be able to get it at a price that I could live with before things just kept skyrocketing and skyrocketing. So I looked at, with these parameters in mind, I wanted an American seller, somebody in the States that could ship it to me. I didn't want somebody in China or Hong Kong. I especially didn't want anybody, no matter what country they were in, that had negative feedback about non-shipment. So I was very carefully screening these people by their feedback ratings, and I wanted one that was sort of in my price range. Unfortunately, I kind of lost track of how many I was looking at, and I bid on 2. And thankfully, one of them I was outbid on, and the other one nobody else ever bid on, and here it is. So I was a little bit nervous when this thing was shipping to me, because even though the seller had pristine, and I'm talking like he had thousands of positive feedbacks and no negative feedbacks, and he's shipping this from Niagara Falls in New York, he did not send me any shipping information. So although I got the email notification that it had shipped, I never got to track it. It just said estimated delivery October the 1st. Here we go. there is the Ghostbusters Optimus Prime. So I'm greatly relieved that this has arrived. I'm not exactly happy about the markup that I had to pay, but like I say, it was one of the lower prices that I saw. It was from somebody with absolutely pristine feedback, which now he's going to get even more from me. And it was here in the United States, so it got here, I think 9 days it took to arrive from Niagara Falls to Florence, Alabama. So I have finally got this particular collectible. Now, you know me, I didn't collect a whole lot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as the Ghostbusters, even though those were new sculpts. And I'm sure not going to buy these wrestling figures as the Ghostbusters, because that's just straight repacks. That's a cash grab. But this thing, I was like, I'm gonna have to do this one. It's two collectibles in one. So, and unfortunately, when you're looking at a crossover collectible like this, you know you're competing with Ghostbusters fans and the Transformers fans, so sometimes you don't get it for the price you want, but you get it quickly. So the next purchase I need to make is the 5th issue of the comic book, and then I'm not sure what happens next. The search will continue for the missing 30 Transformers of mine, and I've got a friend that still collects Transformers. I need to go over to his apartment one day and shoot a video for you guys. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and as always, thank you for watching.